Mysuara
Hello, hello, hello. With me again, Ridhwan, Rosli. We are in our hot top, Mysuara FM, every Tuesday, 11 a.m. to 12 p.m. And today we will be talking about a very, very interesting and a very special topic. And today with me, we have Dr. Refaat from the Al-Quds Foundation of Malaysia. Hello, Dr. Refaat. How are you?
I'm fine, thank you.
All right. Thank you very much for being here with us. And today, ladies and gentlemen, our topic is reality of Palestine. Because as we all know, all of us in Malaysia especially, we've heard a lot of things when it comes to Palestine. However, the question here is are Malaysian given, the right image, or things are being reflected rightfully when it comes to Palestine? But I think before we start, maybe Dr. Refaat, maybe you want to share a bit about yourself?
Again, thank you for having me here, and Ramadan Mubarak for everyone listening to us. My name is Refaat Alarer. I'm a Palestinian academic from the Gaza Strip. I'm currently about to finish my PhD from University of Putra, Malaysia. I'm doing a PhD in English literature.
Okay, so you're also from FBMK. I was from FBMK before.
Interesting.
Yeah. So I'm from the communication department.
Yeah.
Very interesting. So to see it, so technically he's my senior then. All right. Yeah. So how long have you been here, Dr. Refaat?
I started my PhD in 2012 actually.
All right.
But I had to take some time off and go to visit my family after the war in 2014, and I got stuck for 2 years in Gaza. I couldn't come back for my PhD, and thankfully almost a year ago I managed to come back.
All right. So I believe that you are pretty active with the Palestinian community in Malaysia. So I'm just wondering, is there a lot of Palestinian in Malaysia currently?
There are, I think, I'm not sure about the exact number, but at least there are like 2,000 students in different universities, and up to 5,000, 6,000 Palestinians.
Yes,
because some of them refugees, some of them work here in Malaysia.
Yeah, because they also come with their families and everything, right?
Yeah, some of them are with their families.
Yeah, and then according to my own experience, we also have a lot of Palestinian students. Where some of them, I'm not sure about undergraduates, but we have a lot of Palestinians doing postgraduate.
Yeah, true.
Yeah, I've met some. Which is doing their postgraduate or what. And I think this is one of the main problem, because what? Because there are perceptions, their opinion outside over there saying that, Palestinians cannot run their own country because they have been living as refugees and they didn't go to formal school and stuff.
Yeah.
So I think this is one of the perception. What do you think about that?
Yeah, we hear this wherever we go. They just get surprised that we have universities, we have schools, we have like almost everything there in Palestine. The problem is that many people prefer to present the Palestinian situation as a humanitarian crisis, which it is a humanitarian crisis, but it's most importantly, it's politics. Israel occupies more than 80% of Palestinian lands, like totally controlling them, and also controls the other 20%. So in Gaza Strip, for example, there are no Israeli occupation forces inside Gaza, but Israel controls the borders, controls the crossings, controls the air, controls the sea. You can't travel because of Israel. You can't go. Fishermen can't fish because of the Israeli occupation. Students can't travel most of the time. Patients can't travel seeking medical education because of the. But in Palestine, we have like I think 10 major universities with tens of thousands of students. We have tens of colleges also. Life is pretty, in a way, if you take out the Israeli occupation. It's not that bad. And when we talk about the Israeli occupation, we also talk about a colonial occupation that controls and steals all your raw
resources,
and resources.
materials.
So in Gaza, off Gaza, sure there are some natural gas wells that
Alright.
Israel is stealing all the time. We don't benefit when we buy the natural gas, the cooking gas and stuff from Israel. Very expensive, right?
All right. So one way to look at it, it's like it becomes like a huge prison.
It is a huge prison.
It is
Yeah.
a huge prison. I mean, it's like, yeah, you get to live there, you get to have your own community, but everything is under surveillance. Everything
Exactly,
is being controlled.
Exactly, and recently Israel started arresting Palestinians for Facebook posts. So if you are in Jerusalem or if you are in the West Bank and you write something anti-occupation, you can go to prison.
That's a very, very interesting point, ladies and gentlemen. Please, Palestinians do have Facebook. So yeah, I mean, because this is the perception, this is the opinion that some people say, you know, oh, Palestinians, they are living like refugees, they don't have internet, they are so backwards and stuff. No, Palestinians do have Facebook, they have the internet. No, because what? Because those are the normal perceptions and opinion.
There are.
Because this is what have been painted towards Malaysian. That, oh, this is how Palestinian is. They are under war, they are going through a war 24/7. They
Yeah.
don't even have times to go and study. So I think this is the misconception.
Exactly, yeah. There are actually, like, we have about 13 million Palestinians.
Alright.
About 6-7 million of them live outside Palestine, and many of these people live in refugee camps with poverty, with no, basic conditions for a good life. There are many millions of Palestinians who live in utter poverty because of the occupation and because they can't come back to their own homes in Palestine. But at the same time, we have the most probably active people on Facebook and on Twitter and other social media outlets are Palestinians, because from these tragedies, due to the occupation and everything, Palestinians work even harder in order to gain
Yeah.
more education. In the highest rates of literacy in the whole Arab countries is in Palestine. Palestine
Yeah,
have
that's
the most,
very, very
most
interesting.
holders of PhDs in the Arab world per capita. So we're talking about a very difficult situation because of the Israeli occupation, and at the same time, Palestinians know that it's through working hard, through education, through struggling for our freedom and for justice and human rights, that we can gain our own rights. So seeing Palestine as only poor people who want food is really wrong. There are very poor people, but again, our problem is political, because there is an occupation that steals our land, that kills our people, that occupies us, that doesn't want us to live a decent life, and that steals our raw materials and resources, natural resources, and doesn't want us to live a decent life.
So yeah, one way to look at it, doctor, is like the Palestinian rise to the occasion after all what happened, with all the tragedies, with all the oppression, with all of these things going on at the same time. So I believe that not all, but I think most of the Palestinians are doing their best, are struggling to improve not only their life, but also one way to look at it is for the nation. I think before we go any further, maybe we go for a short break and go for another first song then.
Okay.
Hello. We are back today talking about reality of Palestine. We have Dr. Refaat with us in the studio today. So, Doctor, just now, as we talked about, maybe the listeners would love to hear from a Palestinian himself, maybe just a brief history on what happened, what actually happened, and maybe you can also share small things, for example, your childhood experience or you yourself personal experience on what have been going on over there, because what these days what we Malaysian see or hear is already the content which is already being filtered and most of the time being shaped by the West.
First of all, this is a very important thing, actually. First of all, again, I want to emphasize the heavy presence of Palestinians on social media. There are so many Palestinian pages run by Palestinians on Facebook, so many Twitter accounts, Instagram. You just Google Gaza or Palestine on Facebook in English, on Twitter, and you'll find so many people, so many original resources from Palestinians about Palestine, by people mostly living in Palestine under the occupation. And yeah, true, the Western media and so many mainstream media outlets, they want to shape the perspectives of Palestine the way Israel wants it, which is really ridiculous and sad. But again, thanks to social media, Palestinians have managed to raise their voices, to reach out to millions and millions of people around the world. So the Palestinian issue is in so many ways a political issue, because we have Palestine, the Palestinian people were living on their own lands over 100 years ago, started from centuries and centuries ago. But almost 100 years ago, Israel was promised a land. The Zionists were promised by the British Empire that was occupying Palestine, a homeland in Palestine. So the Zionist Jews around the world, or mainly in Europe, wanted to have their own home, and there were so many suggestions. Some were thinking of South America, some were thinking of Africa, and some were saying, let's go to Palestine. So because the Jews were in the Middle East, they were in Palestine, in Egypt, in Syria, in Saudi Arabia centuries ago. Like so many people said, okay, let's go there. But actually, the main reason here is that the imperial powers, the British Empire and the West, wanted to have something in this area that can control it in a way or another. Something
in the Middle East.
In the Middle East, because it's a very important, a very strategic place. If you control Palestine, you control all the trade routes there, the sea, the land, and everything. So unfortunately, they chose Palestine, and then they started illegally immigrating. And it's very important here to know that there were Jewish people in Palestine then, but those Jewish people are mainly Arabs and Palestinians. So because there were Christian Arabs, Jewish Arabs, and Muslim Arabs, they were living in Palestine, in this area, coexisting peacefully, worshipping the way they worship. But when the Zionists started flooding Palestine with European Jews who came not to live or to coexist, especially after the Holocaust, but they came, most of them, they came to conquer, exactly, to steal the land, to steal our homes and everything. But again, going back to how mainstream media and the mainstream narratives work here, they presented Palestine to the Jews in Europe as a land without a people, which is wrong.
There were people.
To the extent that some Jews, when they came to Palestine, they were surprised. Oh my God, we were told that this is empty land. There are people, there are cities here. There is everything that many countries had at that time. The problem is that Palestine came from under the Ottoman Empire, and then the British mandate, which made it very easy for the Zionists to control Palestine. So Palestinians were occupied by the British, and they didn't have arms, they didn't have weapons, they didn't have the means to defend themselves.
So technically they are peaceful living people before that, because they don't need all those things.
Exactly. But because the Zionist Europeans, the Zionist Jews of Europe, who are European people,
they came
here to conquer, to continue the imperial colonial enterprise project of Europe, especially of the United Kingdom. And when the United Kingdom left, they trained the Zionists, they trained them, and they provide them with the weapons, and they provide them with the cover so they can immigrate to Palestine from across Europe, and in 1940, 47 and 48, the Zionists became more powerful than the original native Arabs of Palestine.
All right.
And they occupied about 50% of Palestine, and then 50 years ago in 1967 they occupied all of Palestine, came under the control of the Zionists, and they established the state of Israel illegally on Palestinian land. And when Israel was established, it was established on Palestinian bloods. They massacred thousands of Palestinians. They destroyed over 500 Palestinian villages. They killed the women, they killed the children, they killed the elderly. Palestinians were forcibly dismissed from their villages, from their homes. Some of these homes are still there, out there. Some of these Palestinians are still alive, and they still have the keys to their own homes in the areas that Israel controls, and doesn't want Palestinians to come back.
And technically this is like modern colonization.
It is, yeah.
Modern colonization, where you go in, you kill the people. This we've seen this being done, like
in Malaysia, in
yes,
Indonesia, in
but,
Africa.
Yeah, but that one is, I mean, during back in those days. I mean, when there were people who feel, we always have some other group of people who thinks they are more superior than us. They come in, they want to take charge, they want to be in control. But I'm just wondering, I mean, what about the numbers these days? Is there a lot of non-Muslims in Palestine? And what about in Israel? Are there any Muslim in Israel?
Now, when Israel was established in 1948, they forcibly kicked out almost all Palestinians, except for small Palestinians who remained in their villages, and Israel decided to keep them under control. And now they have been known ever since as Palestinians of Israel, or the Arabs of Israel, or something. So they are Palestinians. Some of them are Muslims, some of them are Christians, but they have Israeli nationalities. They're Palestinians like us. They live under occupation. They're being treated as not second, even not third, like fourth class citizens by Israel. They don't have all their rights. Other than this, generally I think 30% of Palestinians are Christians.
Right.
And this is also important to know, because this is Israel wants this to be presented as a struggle only, like Palestinians hate the Jews, and that's why there are Christians.
Because they are playing the religion's card. A lot of people say in a lot of times it is the religion card is being played. It's saying is that the Muslim hate the Jews.
It's not about that, because now there is a very strong movement around the world, the BDS, Boycott, Divestment and Sanctions movement, and some Jewish communities in America and in Europe, around the world. They're also working very hard, hand in hand with Palestinians, to end the Israeli occupation and fight for Palestinian human rights. So Israel is using religion in order to justify its to whitewash and justify its crimes, its occupation. We don't hate anybody. We don't hate the Jews. We don't hate the Christians. This is colonial occupation.
Yeah.
No matter who the occupier is, as Palestinians, we have the right
for your nation
for a nation, and we have the right to resist and to fight back.
Yeah.
Even like if Palestine is occupied by an Arab country or Muslim country, Palestinians will still resist.
Yeah.
So it's not about the Jews, it's about those
you are being oppressed, and no matter who's the oppressor is, of course you will fight it. And I think the same thing goes to Malaysian. If they are being oppressed, of course they will fight it. So sometimes, I mean, but when most of the time the cards being played are the religion card. So this is what I mean when it comes to perception, when it comes to this opinion. I mean, Malaysian are being driven that ways. So ladies and gentlemen, I think we're going to go for the next break, and it's Ramadan, to show that we are very, very thankful. The next song would be Too Fat, Alhamdulillah. So ladies and gentlemen, we are back talking about the reality of Palestine. with Dr. Refaat, and I think it is very, very interesting to know what we know today. I mean, it's like, because I think a lot of listeners doesn't get the idea yet that there's black Jews, there's actually non-Muslims in Palestine, like you said, 30% are Christians, and as you mentioned off the record just now, I mean, not on air, you said that even Jesus was born in Palestine, so technically,
he's Palestinian,
he's Palestinian.
He would have a Palestinian passport.
He would have it, but under the oppression of Israeli, maybe he wouldn't get it.
Yeah, and that's true. He may not be able to cross from Nazareth to Bethlehem to Jerusalem, because currently Palestinians, like I'm from Gaza.
All right.
I can't go to Jerusalem because of the Israeli occupation. I have never been to Jerusalem. It's only like a 5-hour drive, it's like driving from here to Penang, but you can't go there because very, very few people are allowed to cross, and you have to apply for permits if you are either a very sick person seeking medical treatment, or a businessman. Very few people can get out of Gaza to Jerusalem itself.
And then for me that doesn't make sense, because why? Because I give you a very simple example. Looking at it in this these days so-called globalized world and everything, you can ride a car from Singapore to Malaysia to Thailand, or even end up in Beijing.
Yeah.
I mean, under normal circumstances. I mean, we are all civilized people in a civilized world, in a globalized world. I mean, you have a passport, you can drive your car all the way up to, even if you're willing to go, you can go up to Russia.
True.
Or then that's why we even have people in Malaysia, riding a bike to perform their Hajj, all the way. But it's just ridiculous when you say that it's just 5 hours and you yourself never been to Jerusalem, you can't get to Jerusalem. Technically, the way I look at it, that is just not fair.
It is not, yeah. But again, this is what occupations do. They turn our lives into living hell. They want us to live under oppression and humiliation. They make it very impossible for us to go to our jobs, to seek education, to seek medical treatment, because they want to blackmail Palestinians. They want us to be all the time busy, running after the food and the drinks, so we don't have time for politics, for resistance, and to struggle for our own freedom, for our own self-determination, for our own land and our own rights. For Israel, in Gaza, Gaza is a totally different situation, because now it's under horrible siege by Israel and other Arab countries. But some people in Jerusalem who can, I think it's about an hour drive or 2 hours from Hebron to other, but again they can't be there. They can't go because they will be sent back. They might be arrested if they want to go from Hebron, Khalil to Al-Aqsa Mosque just to pray. Even some people near Al-Aqsa Mosque cannot be allowed to go and pray, because Israel doesn't want Palestinians to move freely in their own land.
And I was also being understood that I did met some Palestinian before, that some Palestine have already moved from Palestine to Jordan and also Egypt.
These are the Palestinian refugees. They didn't move willingly. In 1948, like I said, Israel destroyed about 500 villages and committed horrible massacres. Like they would get into, for example, Deir Yassin. They would massacre the women, the pregnant women, the elderly women, the elderly people, the children, the young people, and they started terrorizing Palestinians. Israel was built and born in terror and ethnic cleansing. If you are not a Jew, you would be kicked out. So those Palestinians were pushed from their own homeland, their own villages and cities outside. Some of them were kicked to Egypt, to Syria, to Lebanon, to Jordan. Some of those people went to Europe. That's why about 50% of Palestinians live outside Palestine in diaspora, and they can't go back.
And are they have already become Jordanian or Egyptian, or do they have? I mean, have they started fresh over there?
it depends actually. Some countries very difficult, like in Lebanon. They're all still Palestinians. There has been a decision in the Arab countries where they don't give Palestinians their own nationality, so they don't forget about their land or whatever.
Yeah.
In a way, it's good, but it's still stupid because it deprives Palestinians of their basic human rights. So Palestinians who went to Europe, especially to South America, there are over, I'm not sure how many, but over 1 million Palestinians in Chile and Brazil and these countries. All these Palestinians, they now
so technically they become Latinos.
Yeah, they have their dual they don't have the Palestinian nationality.
Yeah.
They don't have the Palestinian identity passport, but they have the American nationality, the Chilean nationality. But those people, for us as Palestinians, they're strategic. They play a strategic role in again being ambassadors for Palestine. Some of them are now part of the struggle of trying to put more pressure on the countries outside to communicate our own, plight as Palestinians to the rest of the people. And this is something we do, like here in Malaysia as a Palestinian. As a human being, I want to do my best for my own good and my family and my country, but especially as a Palestinian, I want to work harder.
Yeah.
So I can be a good ambassador for Palestine. I can leave a positive impact on people around the world, whether Muslims or non-Muslims, about Palestine, so they can be part of the struggle, because this is a universal struggle of the oppressed against the oppressors. This is a universal struggle for human rights. This is a struggle for equality, for a decent life. Because, like you said,
this is basic human right.
Exactly. So if you can't move, you can't travel. Some people, like, again, we can spend 2 years talking about how horrible Israel is, and we can't cover everything. Like in Gaza, because now in Gaza you can't have 3 hours of electricity every day. Can you imagine that? It's very crazy. Only 3 hours of electricity. You can't do anything with them. You can't cook. You can't do.
Yeah,
you can't study. You can't.
But with 3 hours of hospitality, 3 hours of electricity. I mean, how can you operate a hospital? And then you can't. Normal stuff. I mean, ladies and gentlemen. I mean, this is like basic, very simple stuff. Can you imagine that you can't even charge your phone?
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, we can talk about internet, so on and so forth, but yeah, you can't even charge your phone. You can't even charge your laptop. Or maybe when you have 3 hours of electricity, you need to charge everything now at that 3 hours, because because
it's not enough sometimes.
Yeah, it is never enough. 3 hours of electricity.
And the same vein here, Israel destroyed almost 90%. Can you imagine? Like 90% of factories in the Gaza Strip were destroyed by Israel, either directly because they were bombed, or because the borders are closed most of the time, so you can't have raw materials, you can't produce.
So there's no business then. There's no business. There's no work.
We're talking about close to 60% of unemployment, which is probably the highest in the world, and the most, like, the craziest thing, because you finish your university, you can't find a job. You're married, you have kids, you also don't have a job. So the poverty is a direct result of the Israeli occupation. Palestine, in its strategic geographic location, we can live a really decent life with with
all the resources and natural resources, with the business that you can
money,
do.
but we can live a decent life. We can depend on ourselves. But again, we go back to the core of the issue, which is the occupation. And this is not only an occupation that comes here and wants to stay for some time. This is an occupation that claims to have a right to the land, which is really wrong. Israel, like there was a story last month from Gaza where a Palestinian child had a cancer. There's a high rate of cancer in Gaza for so many reasons, and Israel is one of them. And this boy couldn't find, of course, medical treatment in Gaza because the situation is bad. The hospitals don't have the resources and the equipment. So he had to go to Jerusalem. He applied for permits and everything. And when he went to the Israeli military crossing, the Israeli intelligence, the officers told him, listen, if you give us information about Palestinians in Gaza, if you become a spy, a collaborator with us, we can send you for medical treatment. If you don't,
No.
we send you back. You go. And he said, I can't. I can't. He said, okay, go back to Gaza and die in Gaza. And he died like two weeks later. See, this is barbarity. This is only Nazis can do this.
But I mean, it's like one way to look at it. When they cut your resources, when they have when you have super high unemployment, when there's no economy activity going on.
True.
That is just the start of self-destruction, because I think that's maybe as a colonizer, maybe that's what actually you want to see happen to these people. They want, not only they want to oppress them, but yeah, we just want to see you to kill each other.
True. And this happens all the time. Like Israel in 2006, there was one of the best elections in the whole area, and because Hamas won the elections, Israel was not happy. America was not happy, and Europe was not happy. So they worked together to destroy. At first they said, okay, there should be free elections in Palestine, in occupied territories. And when there was one of the best elections ever, because somebody they don't like won, they said, no.
Yeah.
No. Well, come on. But what Israel is doing is, they don't want people to starve to death.
Yeah.
So they keep them alive, but it's like when you have a mobile phone charged on 5%. It doesn't die, and you just keep it charging at 5% all the time, because this is what Israel does. But at the same time, Israel is playing a really, sadly, with the help of some Arab countries, because some Arab countries, the Arab dictators, they realize that if Israel is happy with us, then America is happy with us. So let's be good to Israel, and this is very destructive to Palestine, to Palestinian people, inside and out and outside. Israel is trying to depict itself as a beacon of hope, as the only democracy in the Middle East. Israel is in so many ways worse than Nazi Germany, because in the 21st century you're doing this to people who are worse than Hitler.
They're still doing it. Doctor, I think we will be very, very interesting. We are very, very interested to talk more about Hamas and Fatah after this. But before that, because I only got to know that they are Palestinian in South America. That is very, very interesting. And as Dr. Refaat said, it's nearly like 1 million people in South America. And therefore, I think we're going to dedicate a song for that, because that is very, very interesting. The numbers, that is just 1 million Palestinian in South America. I think we're going to listen to Despacito. Yes. So we are back, ladies and gentlemen, talking about reality of Palestine. We have here with us a very, very special guy, Dr. Refaat, who's been sharing with us. Dr. Refaat currently is with UPM, and he's also doing his PhD in UPM, also, which used to be my faculty, Faculty of Modern Language and Communication, but we are just in different departments. But at one time, I was also studying in the Department of Language. I was doing a Bachelor of English Linguistics.
Interesting.
For a year. That is before I went and changed my major into corporate communication. Yep. So Dr. Refaat, as we mentioned earlier, do you mind sharing a bit about Hamas and Fatah? I mean, because we always hear the word, but we don't really understand. I mean, some of us will say, oh, it's two different political parties, and we also hear sometimes that there are, these leaders of this specific party, they're actually not living in Palestine, they're actually living outside of Palestine, and their and their family, some of them are living quite a good life in overseas, and we also hear stories that some of the leadership families or so on and so forth. What do you say about that?
let me start from the last point. Palestine is a just cause. There's again a humanitarian crisis, a humanitarian plight. But more important than this, there's again the politics, and it's a political issue about freedom and independence and occupation. So when we support Palestine, we support these human rights, the fight for justice, for equality.
Yeah.
And everywhere there will be bad people trying to make use personal gains out of this, the plight of people, and out of this. This should not. This should make us smart, the way we support the just causes, but it should not prevent us from supporting. If I meet a Malaysian who gives me a very bad impression, I shouldn't hate Malaysia.
Yeah.
Exactly. It's similar to this. And most Palestinian leaders live in Palestine, but those living outside Palestine are people who can't go back because Israel does not allow them.
All right.
Or if they want to come back, Israel kills them or sends them to prison. So it's not something they do by choice.
Yeah.
In Palestinian occupied territories, after the occupation, Palestinians started organizing themselves in different ways to fight the Israeli occupation, and they formed national groups. It started with Palestinian Liberation, with Fatah and Popular Front, who engaged against the Israeli troops mainly inside Palestine. They started fighting back to defend the Palestinian areas, to the Palestinian villages against the Israeli occupation. And later on, some Islamic groups started to emerge in the 80s. So this is where we have Hamas and the Islamic Jihad. Mainly, Hamas is the main Islamic movement. It's a national movement. The Palestinians, but at the same time, they believe in the teachings of Islam as a major influencer here. In the first Intifada, they worked in a way in parallel, not together, but there was some kind of collaboration against the occupation. But because the first Intifada was getting everywhere and Israel could not control, because every single Palestinian was part of the resistance.
All right.
Throwing stones, if you see old videos,
Yes.
throwing stones at the jeeps and the soldiers, Israel couldn't do anything. So they did this trick, again, the divide and rule.
Yeah,
They said,
divide
okay,
and rule.
we can't control Palestinians because they don't want us. So let's bring some Palestinians to control some part of Palestine. And then we can just be in the background.
Yeah.
And what results here is that you give some Palestinians some privileges, give them some positions, the money, the power.
Give them the perks.
Exactly.
Lure them in to
But
come
this-
and be with you.
be with Israel, be with
Yeah.
the occupier. So now we have a Palestinian party that engages in peace, and peace is not bad, it's good, but Israel uses peace to build more settlements, to steal more land, to kill more Palestinians. So those people, like mainly Fatah, they engaged in the peace process, and the international community is now considers Fatah to be, or the Palestinian Authority, Palestinian PLO, to be the representative, the main representative.
To be the
of Palestinians.
government.
The government.
To be the government. So.
It's actually a fake government because
Yeah.
it can't do anything without Israel.
To be the so-called government. That
So now, sadly, those people started oppressing Palestinians for Israel
all right.
in exchange for salaries, for the perks you're talking.
So I mean, it's like why should you do the job if you can hire someone else to do the
the
job?
dirty. And so Israel now says there's no occupation. Like the United Nations says Gaza is occupied, part of Jerusalem is occupied, Al-Quds, and Hebron, West Bank. But Israel says no, there's no occupation here because we are not in Gaza. You are not in Gaza, but you control everything about it. Now in 2006, Hamas became a very powerful, but so many people were disappointed with Fatah because they saw that peace means Israel steals more pieces of Palestine.
Yeah.
So they joined
The
Hamas.
illusion of peace.
Exactly, it is an illusion. It's not a reality. it benefits only Israel, the occupier. So many people started joining the resistance, and mainly Hamas. And in 2006, the international community and the Arab countries were pushing Hamas to be part of the political game, to be part of the, the elections. And Hamas joined, and Hamas won.
Yeah.
Fair and square.
That's
and then everybody was like, no, it's democracy only if it brings to power the people we want.
If it benefits you, then it's democracy.
The international community started, sieging the Hamas government. They arrested about 30 to 50 Palestinian members of the parliament and ministers. They killed some of them. They killed, I think, 2 of them in Gaza. Bombed Sheikh Nizar Rayyan was bombed. He was in his own house. They killed him and killed 17
family members.
He wasn't he was a leader of Hamas, actually, not a member of the parliament. But they killed Said Siam. They also bombed him with a 1-ton F-16 bomb. And now, so the West is the major reason, because when Fatah and Hamas were resisting the Israeli occupation, they were close together in a way. But now, the Western Europe and America and Israel, they're giving some kind of small support for the Palestinian Authority, and they're, feeding this division. They're creating this division between Hamas and Fatah. So it's basically the differences between Hamas and Fatah is about the approaches how to liberate Palestine. Peace has failed, and peace has only benefited Israel. And for so many Palestinians, peace should not be the option. There should be other ways of struggle, mainly, by resistance, because the international law says occupied people should resist.
Yeah. By
all means possible. And more Palestinians are now engaged in non-violent resistance, like BDS, like the boycott campaigns, which is, again, people around the world, and here in Malaysia and in America and in Europe, can be part of.
Yes.
Like, many people ask me sometimes, like, how can I be part of the Palestinian struggle? I say, listen, you leave the struggle, the struggle in Palestine for Palestinians, but you can support Palestine by raising awareness, by education, by boycotting Israeli products and products of companies that support Israel, that benefits from the occupation, by trying to help Palestinians, like, again, providing the poor with the food they need, the students with the education they need, the sick with the medical, medical. I think, like Indonesia, for example, built a hospital in Gaza, and I think Malaysia was working on a hospital. Turkey is working on a hospital there, and this is a very important role to play in order to support tangibly, to give concrete support for the Palestinians in Gaza, in Jerusalem, of course, at the West Bank,
and also sharing the truth.
Exactly.
Sharing what's really going on. Doctor, I think we are heading to the last break before we wrap up the session. So this is our last break. We'll be back shortly, ladies and gentlemen. So ladies and gentlemen, we are back at the last part of today Hot Talk Mysuara FM every Tuesday 11 a.m. to 12 p.m. with me, Ridhwan, Rosli, and today we are talking about the reality of Palestine. Thank you very much, Dr. Refaat, for being with us, for sharing from his own experience from as a Palestinian on what's actually going on. Because we heard a lot of things, there's a lot of perception, there's a lot of opinion outside over there. And going towards the last part, Dr. Refaat, I think you want to share where there's a lot of people who's playing the religious card, and also who's misusing the situation in Palestine for their own benefit. For example, we know that there are reports where there are fake donation collectors even in Malaysia that use the sentiment, but actually it never get to Palestine. You want to say something about that?
I want to say something that wherever we have a tragedy, whether in Palestine, Syria, Haiti, there are people who are going to want to make personal gains out of these tragedies. And like I say, it must not make us stop supporting these people, but it must make us smart how we support these people. there will be people who want to gain only personal gains from Palestine, for example, whether they're Palestinians or non-Palestinians. As a community, as Palestinian people, we have the good people and we have the bad people, and we need to seek. If you have money to send, you should be smart, because this is something you worked hard
choosing
to
the
get.
choosing the right foundation.
There's so many organizations that like real good, they do real good work. Off the tip of my tongue, like
or maybe
like Viva Palestina, for example.
Or what about Al-Quds Foundation itself?
Yeah, like there's some organizations here in Malaysia. Some of them are Palestinians, some of them are Malaysians. You can contact them on Facebook or any other way. You can go to them directly to their offices and make sure that your money, you whatever you want to give, goes to the right people. I know people who want to send money only for students, which is good, or for the orphans, or for the people with disabilities, or people who lost their houses because of the Israeli occupation. So again, we should not stop supporting certain causes because there are bad apples, there are bad people. We should be smart how we support, because if we are not smart, then we're doing more damage than good. And this is actually something as Palestinians we try to get rid of. It's not easy, but like all the time I say, listen, you contact an organization that you trust, that you see doing a great job, concrete, tangible work, and you just give them your support, whatever it is.
So I mean, this is what Malaysian most of the time are talking about, because there are people who misuse the issues, who create a wrong perceptions, a wrong opinion on what's actually happening. And as we discussed earlier, this is not just a religious fight. This is fight of freedom. It is a fight of this is about colonization. This is about your human right, because most of the time, when, especially in Malaysia, when people play the religious card, you know that it is actually a wrong card.
It's wrong because it's also dismissive. Nowadays, if you notice, for example, in the 2014 war against Gaza, Israeli horrible war that killed 2,050 Palestinians and destroyed about 20,000 houses. There were marches everywhere. There was a huge rally here in Malaysia, and the participants were Muslims, or Indians and Chinese and Christians and everything. But there were also marches and rallies all over the world. Mainly, there were more rallies in America and Europe and Australia than in the Arab countries. There were hundreds of thousands of people across the world, and the majority of them are non-Muslims. It's good. We want all Muslims to stand with us. But we also want all Christians to stand with us and all Jews to stand with us, because this is not a struggle between Muslims and Jews. It's a struggle of the oppressed people, of the occupied people, the colonized people, against the oppressors, the Zionist oppressors, who are supported by the Western superpowers.
Alright, so thank you very much, Dr. Refaat, for being with us today. So ladies and gentlemen, those are very, very interesting numbers that we got today. There's 80,000 Palestinian in Chicago alone. There's 1 million Palestinian in South America. And there's like 30% non-Muslim in Palestine. Those are very, very interesting numbers. Those are the things that we don't really hear on the mainstream media, or especially in Malaysia. These are the people we haven't really been talking about all of this. But having Dr. Refaat today, putting it into context, not just a religious context, but also something that we Malaysian, no matter what your race is, no matter what your religion is, we got something to share. We have a common ground, which is it's all about humanitarian. It's about your own civil right, ladies and gentlemen. Anyway, thank you very much. Thank you very much for being with us here Tuesday, 11 a.m. to 12 p.m. Hopefully, we will also be together again next week. See you guys on Hot Talks, Mysuara FM. Thank you very, very much again to Dr. Refaat from the Al-Quds Foundation. Ladies and gentlemen, Ridhwan Rosli signing off. Thank you very much.
Thank you.